Hello everyone, welcome to Physiotherapy in Lesotho, www.physioinlesotho.ch. You are listening to a podcast from one of our physio workshop in Lesotho. Your speaker is Thuso, W. Fasser, a qualified physiotherapist.
I have the chance to talk to you just 15 minutes about natural medicine, or we could say as well the combination between Western and traditional practices in medicine. So if you just look a little bit about the story of this topic, nearly 30 years ago, the WHO formulated in the Alma-Ata Declaration many goals. One of the goals was health to all in the year 2000. And in this declaration, one of the topics was as well that traditional medicine shall be integrated into primary health care and into medical practices. So it was maybe 20 years ago, 1985, there was done a very beautiful study here in Lesotho with the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Health and the university. So they were studying traditional medicine in Lesotho. In particular, they were looking at the herbs, the plants which traditional healers, Matuela and others were using. And so they were looking at these plants from a botanic point of view and even from a pharmaceutical and medical point of view. They're studying them. Later on, it was in 1999, a wonderful book was published in Cape Town, the South African Primary Healthcare Handbook, combining Western and traditional medicine. So a lot of work is done since 30 years ago in Alma-Ata Declaration. The desire came up, we have to combine the work in a hospital, in a health center or on the village, we have to combine it with traditional medicine, as we do as well with traditional midwifery. So to integrate what is possible to integrate. So there are so many different ways of looking at disease, understanding the concept of disease and treating diseases by different traditional medicine schools. Lesotho is very rich on traditional medicine. We have different type of traditional medicine people. Those one who pray, those one who bless the water and just baptize the people or the cure with the blessed water. Others, they are using only the herbs, the herbalists. Among others, there are witchcraft who are using quite a lot of negative power, negative involvement. Or there are Matuela, like Ndatetsiare, who I had the privilege to know years ago in Tlokweni. These were real shaman medicine men who really know about the herbs. They are very good herbalists. They are very good psychologists too, and they are even spiritual healers. So they are very in a global approach of confronting patients. So there are many schools. I know that school of Ndatetsiare from Tlokweni. It's a traditional Lituela healer. There are many of these schools, and the task is how can we integrate traditional African medicine with science and evidence-based medicine, with our medicine we are practicing. So on that task, many people worked a lot, and there is even an international organization called ANAMED. It's Action for Natural Medicine in the Tropics. This organization, an international organization based in Tanzania, Malawi, Mozambique and Cameroon and in Germany, they are very much linked with universities and places in Germany. So this organization worked a lot on that topic. How can we integrate Western practices and traditional African medicine practices? And they published even very beautiful books which we know now and we use now in physiotherapy. I just can give them to you. Just can have a look at them, please. There are two booklets. One is about AIDS and natural medicine, another is about natural treatments with natural medicines, and the other one is the more bigger book about using the plants. Now, being a physiotherapist, being very close to traditional African medicine, because physiotherapist was very much born out of traditional European medicine. And in our physiotherapy, we use a lot of herbs and hot compresses and baths and packs using the herbs. Herbs, bushes, and trees. And we are creating medicines and we are using them for external application. Rarely we use them as a T2. But as physiotherapy normally does functional work, we use it for external application. So I myself, I'm born in the mountains. I'm born really near the forest, and I was so used to be in the garden and to know the herbs and nature and so on. I like it very much. So I followed a bit this road of that integration from Western medicine and traditional medicine. And so I followed up the herbs, and I looked which herb can be useful in physiotherapy, even in PHC, or even combined with the medical treatment. Let's say for AIDS patient, what HIV patient, what can be used by local herbs to help there? In the case of HIV and AIDS patient, it's not instead of ART, it's together with ART. Or in physiotherapy, we have many applications of the herbs. So I just want to present you a few herbs which really grow around our houses here, and probably we even did not know, we know it, but we didn't know what is the medical use of it. And let's start with that very simple herb. I think you know it, you have seen it. It's just if you go up to the gate, it's just left on the road, or a little bit above the church. There are big bushes of this. It's called the wild fennel, or here we call it Lefocozzane. And what you can use of this plant is everything. We just take some of these leaves, let's say, I take this part of the leaf. I boil 1 liter of water and I put it in it and leave it there for 10 minutes. It's very important whenever we do a tea, we do it with boiling water for hygienic reason. But we don't know, maybe there was an animal passing by at that plant. Later, if we will have a medical garden, we will have it safe. But now, so for hygienic reason, really boiling water, boiling that tea for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, not more as that, and then you cool it down. And if you like, as we like here, we just put a bit of sugar and you can drink it. It's very tasty. And for what does it help? It helps first for the breastfeeding mother. It helps to give them milk. If they drink regularly, daily, this tea, they will have more milk, and the children, they will have less bowel problem. 2, this herb helps to digest fat. So if somebody has a high cholesterol, or if he has problem with the liver or the gallbladder, he can drink this tea regularly and it will help him. So this would be already a use in the hospital. If we have a patient with liver problem or a gallbladder problem, we could give them that tea. It eases off a bit. It's not a radical cure, they still need the medicine, but it can help them. It's very, very useful. And the third use of that is, if we have people who have a lot of air in the belly, it helps to take off the air. So we have already 3 indications, and I think every day in OPD you will see a patient who could profit from that herb, which is just growing next to our houses. So this is the wild fennel, or the Florentine fennel it's called, or Lefocozzane. Now you can use it in the kitchen as well. Just take this part here, you wash it nicely, and then you cut it, you slice it, and you make this little slice. And then you put it in the sun and you dry it. And by time you fill up a whole bag of it. during winter, when we do the vegetables, the moroho, you just put a bit of them in it. And it will be very tasty. Or if you do some rice, you're cooking rice, just put a bit of this in it. And it gets such a wonderful taste. And it's healthy too. So from this plant, we are using, in that part, we are using the leaves. And when the flowers are over and you have the seeds, you can use the seeds too, especially for the tea. And we can replant it again. So this is Lefocozani, this is one of the herbs which is so potential, and it costs us nothing going there and harvest it. We just harvest a part of the plant, so the plant can regrow and regrow and regrow. Another herb, I didn't brought it with me now because you know it, everybody knows it, Lengana. You know it, Hage? This is Artemisia afra. This is a well-known plant, Artemisia plant. We have two forms of that, even next to the road up there to the gate, or going to the houses up there on the right above the church. It's growing a lot of this Lengana. This is Artemisia afra. We know it traditionally. Sometimes people, when they have a flu, they just put it into the nose. Have you seen that?
Yes.
People, this is Lengana. They use that. And why do we use Lengana? Lengana is a very famous and potential plant to reinforce the immune system. So the defense, the immune system gets more stronger with that plant. So it helps for all the flu and the coughs. And as we know by studies which were done in Tanzania with HIV patients and AIDS patients, they could see that some who have a very low CD count, that they come up with it when they start to drink this Artemisia tea, and they gain more weight. And in generally by infection diseases, drinking Artemisia tea helps to get a bit more robust in the immune system. So we still can use our Artemisia we have here, but there is a very special plant now, the Artemisia A3, Anamet. This is a very pure plant. I brought seeds with me and I prepared now the plants. They are starting to grow. They are still little, but they will become big like we ourselves. These leaves can be harvested and we can dry them and we can make a tea, which can be used very much for all these upper respiratory tract infections, for the flu, for influenza, and it can be parallel to ART treatment given to HIV patients. They will have a continuous Artemisia treatment. It's a tea. They will boil the tea and drink the tea next to the HIV drugs, and to stabilize them. You can see on that poster, there are the plants which were studied by Anamet, this Action for Natural Medicine in the tropics, and the pharmaceutists were studying them exactly so that we know now which plant has which ingredient and how is the dosage which we have to give that the patient can react well. So we know, by example, by the HIV patient, they need 5 grams of that tea a day. If it is for prevention, 1.5 grams. So prevention, if you are in a difficult time, like it's winter, it's hot, it's cold, you easily get a flu, or maybe there is that strong wind, so a lot of dust is flying around. In that dust there are lots of microbes. So we are a bit exposed. Our immune system has to work hard. So in this time, we can drink Artemisia for prevention, 1.5 grams a day. So it was studied very well. And if you look carefully at that poster, you will see there are plants which we well known here in Lesotho, the cabbage, maize. Maize can be used as a medicine for diabetic people. Not instead the medicine, the insulin, but in combination, and then they need less insulin. Or there are other plants which we very well know. So we have many plants. Not all of these are growing here in Lesotho, but many of them. And we can study them and involve them. So this Artemisia plant, I was planting now at least 30 of them, and then they will grow up. I Probably when I leave in 15th of January, I can show you they are a little bit bigger than we will plant. And it's like a very pure Lengana, but Lengana we still can use. And in physiotherapy, as we are treating people with respiratory tract problems, so we offer them steam inhalation. Just with a pot of boiling water, we put Lengana in it with a bit of salt, and they cover themselves and just breathe that. And this helps a lot to get off the inflammation within the upper respiratory tract and in the bronchi. Even for asthma people can help them very much. So we used it Lengana, just a bit, not too much. The third plant I wanted to show you today is this one, you know it, okay? The Blaycom, the eucalyptus. And you see here these little globuli, these little balls, huh? There are many different plants of eucalyptus. Not every eucalyptus tree is the same as the other. But those one who have this little, this is the very curative one. It's called Eucalyptus globuli. We call it here Blaycom. So what we do with that, we just harvest the leaves. We can break them and use it as well for the steam inhalation for respiratory problems. You can just take the leaves and you put it into the pillowcase. Quite a lot of more as that. So the patient, maybe a TB patient or somebody who had a viral pneumonia or has asthma, chronic problems on the nose, he's just lying, sleeping nicely at the night on his pillow and breathing the whole night the smell of eucalyptus. And eucalyptus is really a good medicine to dilate the bronchs, to make them relaxing, to open them. So they sleep, and while they are sleeping, they are inhaling the smell. Or even in the house or in the roundabout, you just boil a bit of water, you put it in it, and then the steam is going into the house, and you will inhale it, and it will help you to loosen even the sputum. We could use it very good down in the TB ward, just having a pot there and boiling that a little bit. So the steam will help when you just smell it. What we do as well is the eucalyptus oil. As we in physiotherapy are doing a lot of massage, body work, so we need some oil. So we have different type of oil which we are using. This eucalyptus oil helps to increase the blood flow. So if we have somebody who is very tight in the muscle, we can massage him with eucalyptus oil. It will warm up a bit. It will help to increase the circulation. And how can we do that? We just take the leaves, we break it or we cut it very in little pieces. We have certain volumes which we have to respect. We take 1 cup of leaves and 2 cups of sunflower oil. We warm it up nicely, gently, without heating it really. It's just to be nicely warm, not cooking, otherwise the oil will be smelly. We leave that for 1 hour, and then we are filtering it nicely, so there is nothing from the leaves in that oil. We cool it down, and then we bring it into the bottle, and we do even the label on it, so we know when is their expiry date and so on. We use that for massaging, and we could give that to the patient as well as an ointment, which they can use self if they have osteoarthritis problem on the muscle pains. And you think we can make many bottles. I think we had 2 liters of oil, and we can make around 20 of these little bottles and giving to the patient. So this is a very cheap medicine. It's a very biologic medicine. There is no chemistry in it, and it works. I can give it around so you can have a smell or put a little bit on your arm. So this is the Blaycom oil which we are using in physiotherapy. We are using the Artemisia for the steam inhalation, and we use the fennel to give the breastfeeding mother, which receive postnatal exercise and some instructions. We can use it for the patient who have chronic liver problem or a gallbladder problem. And another plant which we are using is the sage. So the other day I had a patient who she had a problem of fertility. So, and it was not organic problem of that fertility. So we recommended to her several things about diet, behavior, etc., etc., etc. But one thing which we are using quite often is that we do a pelvic bath. We just take a big basin with warm water, and then we take the leaves of sage down at the school. When you just go into the main entrance, immediately before on the left, it's nicely cut, you can find there is the sage. Or behind the house of Dr. Martin there is a big bush of sage. Normally it's used as a spice. It's very nice when you cook it. You can use it as a tea for a reddish throat, just to do the gargling. And you can use it as well, just you put it in a bag, you cook it, and then you take off the bag and that water you put in the basin, so that woman is sitting into that basin, just sitting in it and covering herself with the blanket. So she's sitting in that warm water, covering herself, the steam, everything remains here at her lower waist. So the female organs, the pelvis is nicely warm, kept warm, and it will stimulate the organ. Sometimes just that helps, that somebody who maybe is very much afraid that she won't get pregnant or is very tight, is stressed up, just help them. The same bath helps a lot for inflammation on the female organs. So simple we are using it, and these plants, they are just around us. So these are 4 examples how we are using these herbs. Normally we are using them as an oil, which we are putting on, or as a tea, or in the steam inhalation, or as a bath. So for several indications we have these types which are included in a physiotherapy, physical therapy. There is the bridge we can do from physiotherapy, of course, to medicine, the working together with the doctor or with the nurses. The hospital can do the bridge to PHC. Community health worker, we can teach about these things, and of course we can learn from them as well, because they know some of these recipes very well. What is maybe different to general traditional medicine is that now we have the data, so we have studied this herb. We know how much of a herb has to be given and how much is too much. So if we talk about using aloe, which is a very famous herb used here in traditional medicine, there is very important to know how much the dosage. Otherwise, it can create a serious problem, even death. This sometimes was the problem when maybe a patient went to the traditional healer gave him the medicine, aloe, but it was the recipe for an adult person. So that patient maybe months or 2 months later had a child who had the same problem. Then he or she was thinking, I give him the same medicine, it helped me. But the child is a child and not an adult, so the dosage is not okay, so the child was poisoned. Many times it happened. So it's so important that we know the plants very well, and with the more difficult plants, those one who are not so easy to handle, really we have to know the dosage is very careful. What we are using in physiotherapy are herbs which are simple to use. They are not dangerous. If you take a little bit too much, nothing will happen. So they have to be simple in that use. They have to be effective, really efficient. And they shall be from easy access, that patient just can find themselves. This is my idea about the herb which I will use, that they are simple and safe, efficient and easy from access. So we are on the safe side using this type of herb. When it comes to use the more stronger herb like aloe, so we have to be very careful, and we have to know exactly the percentage, how they have to be mixed up. I think on the level of community health or on PHC and physiotherapy, we are on the good side to keep safe and to do with simple herbs working. And maybe in the pharmacy and the medical side, we can study more, even the more potential herbs like aloe, and using them. So that's what I wanted to tell you about my herbs and how we were using it. We were using them now in the physiotherapy workshop we had 2 weeks ago. We had 14 people coming from 6 hospitals, and they were very curious to know this plant. And most of them, they said, yeah, we know the plant, but we didn't know that this is medicine. Or sometimes we just know it's medicine, but we don't know really how it works. This would be the natural medicines. When we are calling today about natural medicine, then we are thinking about the synthesis between traditional African medicine and Western medicine. In traditional medicine in Lesotho, in the Matuela tradition, we have a part of the herbs. They are using the music, singing and the drumming and dancing. In Western terms, we would talk about music therapy. I'm qualified in physiotherapy and in music therapy, so it's a whole study now. So we have it here too, the singing. Singing helps a lot for breathing as well, and even to bring up the emotional tone. Drumming, dancing. So they have a lot of the talks in which they are honoring the patient, or which they show their gratitude or deep respect for the patient. So that loving kindness is so much practiced in Matuela tradition. It's something we really can remember us and learn from them too. Modern psychology is telling us the same. Then in Matuela tradition, they use as well the symbolic medicine. And I just want to finish with that. There sometimes we didn't understood properly what it meant. What is a symbolic medicine? A symbolic medicine is something the healer, the Matuela is giving you. It's somehow a blessed object, something blessed. And it has its name and it has a special effect. Let's talk about ponyoka. In origin, ponyoka is a root, but this root is transformed by a ritual. It's blessed. The healer puts his whole love in it, and his good will and his loving kindness towards the person who will benefit from ponyoka. So this is the ritual. So that piece of root is no longer only the root. It has become a blessed object. It's potentiated by the ritual, and it has become the symbolic medicine. And on the symbolic level, and it is his first task now, that symbolic effect is that we put it into the water which we wash ourselves. And it will help us to like the patient, to open our heart for the patient. So in Matuela tradition, we believe like this. So it opens up the heart for the patient, because they believe if you like the patient, you will be able to help him. If you don't like the patient, you won't be able to help him. Modern psychology tells us the same. We have to be in resonance with the people. We really have to get together. Relationship is the carrier for the therapy, they say in modern psychology. So in Matuela tradition, ponyoka becomes a symbolic medicine. It's symbolic for opening the heart. So we prepare ourselves, we purify ourselves to be open to receive the patient. So within that relationship, we can help him. So this is a symbolic medicine, and sometimes symbolic medicine were mixed up with herbal medicine. A symbolic medicine you cannot eat. You cannot eat. Symbolic medicine is a symbolic medicine, so there are many of them, moratwe, etc., etc. There are many of these symbolic medicines. So we really have to distinguish nicely. The symbolic medicine helps on a psychosocial level. It's a relationship. It's even something which is tying the patient and the doctor. There are many cures. Let's say a hemiplegic person, he really has to learn to trust to the therapist and the doctor, that we really have to work a long time and then he will go again. Or we had a patient, we saw him this morning, many years ago, he had Guillain-Barré, virus infection on the nerves. He was paralyzed until here. He couldn't believe anymore. Even the nurses couldn't believe that that man will walk on one day. We were working hard all together, the nurse, the doctor, and the physiotherapist, for 2 years. After 2 years, that man is walking. Now he comes up for a refresher. So that trust which the patient develops will help. But he can trust if he has a therapist who really is open to that person and likes the work he's doing, like the person is doing. Therefore, punyoka is the symbol and the symbolic medicine, and we can learn a lot about that. So that's the finish of my little talk. Thank you very much for attention. If you have some question, I will be glad to answer them.
Thuso punyoka.
Punyoka.
What is it?
Punyoka in origin is a root, but being transformed by the ritual, it becomes a symbolic medicine who helps you in your purifying ritual, washing yourself before you treat the patient, and it will help to open your heart. So Ndatetse Hare, and he was a very famous and a very gifted traditional healer. He had many, many scholars. In his belief system, punyoka was the symbol for that. If we take it out from Matuela tradition, in modern Western medicine, it's the same. If we like the